What is going on, guys? We are back with Turdzilla. It's been a little while since we've messed with the car. Still some odds and ends to touch up on the appearance, but it looks pretty good. Now, last time we were on the dyno, we were starting to run into what I think is an injector, a maxing out issue, and or pump. We were making about 364 wheel horsepower on 93 octane. And I was curious to see what this thing would do naturally aspirated with E85. We also have some boost planned in the works, but what better way to test out the E85 and also prepare for boost than a fuel system? We actually have a full D-Schwartz fuel system. This is a setup for a stock tank style. So with that clamping setup for the GT, let's check it out. Those of you guys who know, when you have a GT tank, it has this little bucket, basically, the stock bucket, you know, kind of clamps in. And this one actually has the same design. So it has a bucket there. There we go. Prototype revision 2 triple pump fuel system. So hopefully everything goes according to plan, but you can see right there. So that is gonna clip into your stock bucket. So maybe solving the problem of having to get a 0304 Cobra tank to have that sumped area. We're gonna try it out, test it here. We got a load of fittings. We also have some 3-valve fuel rails. They were super awesome. Put this all together so we would be able to put some 3-valve fuel rails, because if you guys don't know, this car is 3-valve swap. So 3-valve return fuel system. This will also work for obviously any GT. We also have a fuel pressure regulator. Well, that is our filter right there. And our fuel pressure regulator is right here. Boom. So we're gonna be installing this. It's honestly been a while since we've messed with this car. I think some of the wires got ripped out on the wideband too. So we're gonna have to fix that. Not a big deal, it's just the power inside. And the engine bay looks awful. Since we did sanding and primer, and this got all the sanding and primer dust in here, and this engine bay was never really looking that great to begin with. So we'll try to also get that cleaned up. You guys know that we had the hood incident that destroyed the fender, basically everything over here, and Cody and I got that all fixed up. It also cracked the dash right there, so we're gonna have to replace the dash. So the car with the never-ending project, you know, we'll definitely get there. The engine bay will need to be painted at some point. It's kind of like one of those like 10 footers. You come back here and you're like, yo, that's sick. And then you come up close and you're like, I mean, it's still kind of sick, but it needs some work, it needs some love. We're slowly getting there. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and start with pulling the tank out. And yeah, so we'll start the time lapse. So you can see right here, X3 DW series triple pump. So everything's already comes assembled, which is cool. A lot of hats you gotta assemble. The fuel level is already done. You don't have to touch anything in here. This is all done. The only thing I noticed is I think that this little return thing, I think it's supposed to slip in there. So hopefully it goes smoothly into the mount here. So that's what we're gonna try to do. And we also gotta swap over our gasket. I noticed it doesn't have the little knobby things for the gasket, so we're gonna have to make sure that that seats nicely, and we'll go from there. All right, guys, so we're back the next day. I had to order some wiring, but we got the harness supplied by DW. We just got to build connections from there to the hat, and we just have to splice in the level sender. And while we do that, I'm also going to splice in the third brake light on the Celine wing, and we got to run the wire harness through the car. So we got a little bit of work to do on wiring before we can even start with fuel system stuff, but let's go ahead and get her done. All right, guys, so what I usually do to grab the trigger, so obviously these are relays, you need a trigger, 12-volt trigger. I usually come in here, I think it's the green and yellow on Terminators that triggers it. On this 2-valve, it looks like the pink and black, but I usually verify with this power probe. This is the best tool ever. I'll leave a link to Amazon to get it, but basically you can test key on power. So we test right there, make sure it's got no power on key off, and when we key on, it's got power. You also want to make sure it has consistent power even when key is in the start position, so it doesn't dim power. But in this case, we're going to use that to hook to our relay trigger. Poor Turdzilla is looking pretty rough, honestly. We're going to have to replace the trunk pan at some point, because that's the ground, so not ideal situation there. Okay, so I just went ahead and cut the factory harness, so it still plugs in and everything. This is the level sender. Level sender will plug right in like factory, and I have the 2 power, 2 grounds. I did check with DW, and the second level actually runs, so stage 1, stage 2. So stage 1's 1 pump, stage 2 is 2 pumps. You can wire it to be on all the time, or it can trigger on a like PWM output or something similar. So right now we're gonna go ahead and hook the level sender up, then we're gonna put the tank on and put the tank back in, and then we gotta figure out our fuel lines, feed, return. Alright guys, so we're just working through the fuel system. The rails are mounted, the injectors are installed. We got the fuel pressure gauge right there, mounting the regulator there. We're gonna run the return right down this side. So right now we're feeding the return from there to there. We have a crossover over the back, and we'll have a single feed in here. I don't think we need to do 2 feeds in and 2 returns out on this setup. Even with the blower that we're planning on doing, I don't think we'll need that. And this is fairly easy. So basically you have an in, a crossover, and out to the regulator, and down out. So that's how we're gonna run it. It's not a 1,000 horsepower setup, so I think it's gonna work perfectly fine. so we have the full fuel system plumbed. You can see we have the feed coming in here, boom, comes down, crosses over in the back, comes around. We got a fuel pressure gauge, boom, returns to the fuel pressure regulator, pops down the blow to return. That is gonna come all the way back down this frame rail, boom, grabs a return. We got feed, goes to fuel filter forward. We are plumbed, we are wired. All I gotta do is stick the tank back in there. I have the lines just zip tied up for now. We're gonna make sure everything works, no leaks. So I just keyed it on and we have fuel pressure. There's also no leaks currently. So what I'm gonna do is put in the injector data and dial in the fuel pressure and we should be good. But if we key it on, you see, we got fuel pressure. We're gonna knock this back to the 39 factory pressure. It's actually running like 70 right now. So we're just gonna set this little screw right here. We're gonna back the set screw off, dial this back to about 40 PSI, and we'll be good to go there. All right guys, so we got the tune loaded with the injector data. Should be able to start it up, it should run normal. We're gonna double check fuel pressure, we're gonna double check for any leaks, and yeah, let's get it started up. All right guys, so I actually spent pretty much all day messing with Turdzilla, and I'm happy to say that we figured out the issue with it running. The injector adapter clips that we got from Amazon, not shout out to Amazon, the pins fell out. So we got the car running, we were getting the AC working, and it ended up having to replace the compressor, a line, and the dryer, I think. I'm not an AC professional, but the AC now works. I think I'm gonna spend a little bit more time tomorrow going ahead and touching up a lot of different things. I'm trying to get this bay as clean as possible. For one, it needs to just be clean physically, but then also there's some lines and stuff running around. The IAC, now that this is speed density, this could actually get mounted really anywhere. We could run these lines out, put it in the fender well or something like that. We can also tuck it, you know, down there, because that just needs to pull a little bit of fresh air, and that's really about it. So that can kind of run anywhere. The throttle cable, it's a bit long, but it does work. So there's that. Also, we fixed the steering shaft too. So let's just go ahead and start her up. Sounds all right. I think I got some work to do. I had to completely change the tune to get the AC working. So I think I'm gonna have to play with some stuff. go. Just pick that up. Fuel level is working. I don't know what's going on with the speed. I just changed the tune, so I got to fix a lot of different things, but AC's cranking. Sounds pretty nasty.